Okay, so I decided that I wanted to do my video on We Real Cool by Gwendolyn Brooks. It says the pool players 7 at the Golden Shovel. And it reads like this. We real cool, we left school. We lurk late, we strike straight. We sing sin, we fin gin. We jazz June, we die soon. And I just picked this one because it reminded me a lot of the society that we live in today. And I just think it just related a lot to it. It starts by prefacing we real cool. And I think it's prefacing the list that it's about to get into of what the criteria is to be cool. And then it says we left school, which is something that today and in this poem is criteria for being cool, or at least being funny. And then it says we lurk late, which is yet another thing on this list of things that make you cool in this poem or in today. It makes me think of the saying that nothing good happens after midnight, or whatever late time of the day you want to insert into this situation. It's almost like the later you're up or the later you stay out, the more trouble you get into, and the more trouble you get into, the cooler you are. And then it says we strike straight, which is about gaming, I guess, whether that be cards or... I think it's talking about pool in this instance, because at the very beginning it says the pool players, but if we're talking about it in today's time too, it could be, like flip cup or beer pong or whatever. So they don't necessarily have to be talking about pool. And then it says we sing sin, which I thought was just a really interesting way to phrase it. That they're just celebrating their sin or their wrongdoings. And then something interesting to think about is who this sin is against. Is it against their parents? Is it against their peers or their teacher or legal guardian? Or it could even be very straightforward and be talking about it in a religious sense. Maybe the Christian God. That's a big thing in Christianity, is sin. That's a big theme, at least. And then it says we fin gin, which is just referring to the use of alcohol, which could be one of the sins that they're talking about previously. And then it says we jazz June. And then on the side, it explains that that means to have sexual intercourse with. And that could also be under the category of one of the sins that they're talking about, especially if they're talking about it in a religious sense. And then it says we die soon, which I thought was a very interesting way to end it. And so basically, it's like the party life. And then where it says we die soon, like I was saying, I think that's a really interesting way to end it. And there's a lot of parts of this poem, especially where it's such a short poem and it lacks detail, but it's like straight to the point, where you could interpret it in a lot of different ways, like what striking straight means, and where it says we. First of all, who's we? Is it his friend group? Is it humanity as a whole? Is it a certain age of people? Is it like high schoolers, where it's saying we left school? That could be high schoolers, it could be people in college. So yeah, you can think about those two things. And then the title of it, where it says we real cool, it uses slang because that's not correct grammar to say we real cool. It would be we are real cool. But that title makes me think, at the beginning at least, that it's glorifying this kind of lifestyle. Or maybe it's supposed to make the reader to think that it's glorifying this type of lifestyle. But by the end of this very short, shallow poem, where it says we die soon, that makes me think that it's almost shaming it. I don't know if he or she, the author, is shaming themselves, or just shaming that lifestyle, or shaming the people who lives this kind of lifestyle. So yeah, there's just a lot of different ways that you can interpret it. And then where it's saying we die soon, the very last word soon, makes me wonder if it's just trying to make this list seem even more straight to the point and shallow, if it's just like these milestones or check marks that you need to mark off in order to be called cool. Maybe they're talking about it in a literal sense, or it could, going off of what I just said, where it is such a shallow list, maybe it is just little things and then you just die at the end of it and there's not a whole lot to it or a lot of meaning to that kind of life. Maybe it's talking about it in a literal sense. Maybe the alcoholism or the alcohol use. If you overdose, it could be talking about dying in that manner. It could be talking about mental health. If you have depression, that could definitely lead to suicide. So maybe they're talking about it in a literal sense. But yeah, altogether, I think it's just trying to portray this shallow lifestyle. And I think it really is up to the reader about if they think it's glorifying it or shaming this kind of lifestyle. I don't really know what I think the rhyme of it means. I do think that does play into the simplicity of the poem, though. I don't know if I think there's a whole lot more meaning behind that. I do think it's easier to read and straightforward, which plays into the simplicity of it. And then lastly, where it does say we die soon at the end, going off of how I think that it's trying to portray it in a negative connotation. It's like they're saying verbally that it's a cool thing to do, but they know that deep down it's a harmful and draining thing to do. And it makes me think that the we of this poem, probably teenagers, know that this is such a draining and shallow lifestyle to live, but they almost just don't want to say it because it's more important to be cool than to be happy, because being cool is what is supposed to make you happy, or what people make it seem to be what is making them happy. So yeah.